Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, April 19th in the year 2022, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. If my background looks a little different today, it's because I'm in a different location. I'm actually in Auburn, Alabama, and eventually I'll end up in Atlanta, Georgia this week before heading back home towards the end of the week. But it's April the 19th, and this month seems to be flying by. April is always a special month for the Gossams and the Gilly Gossams because it's a big birthday month for us. And it's a day that's full of memories, the kind you look back on and smile and say, whoo, man, that was a good day. Birthdays this month include my wife, Joyce, our son, Dixon, my dad, who's passed. His birthday was April the 11th. My mother-in-law's birthday is this month. And so it's a special month. And I think I saw on Facebook where Barbara's mother's birthday was this month. So we say happy birthday to all, and we celebrate those we love and those who have given us love and many wonderful moments and memories and taught us along the way. So blessings to Joyce, Dixon, my dad, Mom Gilly, and Barbara's mom. This edition of Tuesday with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So our G-List guest today is Mr. Jason Peavy. Jason is the Vice President for Outreach at the Arnold and Winnie Foundation. He is a hell of a fundraiser, a great golfer, and an all-around great guy, and I look forward to talking with him today. But first, let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. But before I even get into that, I'd like to talk about something. Well, I'll get into Barbara first, and then we'll come back in that. Barbara, how you doing?
Morning, Thom. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you today?
I am doing just fine. I saw. Now, your mother did have a birthday this month. Is that right?
It wasn't her birthday. It was the anniversary of her passing. She passed away 15 years ago on April 13th. So, yes.
Yeah. I understand.
Her birthday's in June.
I remember that passing day as well. So.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I just want to run some trivia by you.
Okay.
By the both of you. I am in Auburn, Alabama at the University Hotel, and they have in the bathroom, there is some artwork, and this particular artwork is replicas of Auburn football tickets from years past.
Okay.
And the first ticket is from November the 7th. It's Auburn versus Mississippi State.
Okay.
1959.
Oh, wow.
And Sean, you can put Michael on here as well. The ticket was $4.
Wow.
The second one is October the 10th, 1959. Auburn played Kentucky. I don't know who won, but I'm just reading the tickets.
Right.
And that ticket was $4. And the third one was November the 18th, 1972. Michael will appreciate that. Auburn played Georgia. and that ticket was $7. But the thing that's most significant about that one was I played in that game.
Wow. Yeah, that has to be cool.
There was a big fight in that game. I remember that. We used to fight quite a bit on the field. It was a huge fight. And so that just brought back some good memories.
Yes.
For me. And the other thing I'll say is I saw a post, I think you posted, Barbara, that had a picture of you and Willie Smith, Eric Simmons, and I can't remember Gerald's last name.
I can't either.
You didn't have his name in the post.
You noticed that, right?
And I said, she couldn't remember his name either.
I could not remember Gerald's last name as well as I've done it. Michael, you may remember it. I don't know. But, he pledged with Willie and Butch. And I talked to Butch yesterday. I should have asked him, but I didn't. I couldn't remember. So I will find out, though. Yeah. I will definitely find out.
He was from New York. They were both from New York.
He and Willie both were from New York. Yeah. That's right. Right. Yeah, so and he's still, he's still alive. Butch talks to him quite a bit. Really, Willie, rest his soul, has passed away. But of course, both Eric Simmons, Butch Simmons, and Gerald are still living. And but I haven't talked to Gerald in years. Haven't seen him since he left Auburn. So yeah. But and we were talking about that earlier. I posted that picture in 2013, but for some reason the photo just popped up again this weekend on Facebook, and I've gotten over 200 comments on it. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that happens. Stephanie posted a while back, and it shows up later. So, very interesting. So what's going on in your life, Barbara?
Well, I want to first congratulate our Auburn gymnastics team. I don't know if you saw it, Thom and Michael, but our gymnastics team went to the Final Four for the national championship for the first time ever. They placed fourth, but the fact that they actually went to the Final Four is huge for our gymnastics team at Auburn. So they've come a long way. So congratulations to all of those young ladies and the coaching staff, athletic department. That's phenomenal.
Well, they had an incredible year.
Yes.
We hang our hat on football and basketball, but there's a whole sports program there.
Absolutely.
So it's wonderful that those young ladies were able to do that.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know if you all got a chance to catch any of the USFL games this weekend, but the first game was played on Saturday for this season, the start of the season. And our Birmingham Stallions won on Saturday night. There was a game on Saturday night and 3 games on Sunday. For those that don't know, the USFL, this is their initial year, and all of the games are being played in Birmingham, Alabama. Because of COVID and other things, they felt like this was the best way to do it. Other cities didn't have stadiums available, and Birmingham has 2. Now that we have the Legacy Stadium, Protective Stadium, and we also have Legion Field. So they're playing their inaugural season here in Birmingham. So we're very lucky to have teams here.
They play in both stadiums?
Yeah, we're playing in both stadiums. Most of the games are being played at Protective Stadium. But I think especially during July, when the World Games are here, some of the games will be played at Legion Field. And like on Sunday, where there were 3 games being played, there will be times when there will be conflicts and they'll have to use both stadiums.
Cool. I saw somebody posted something. May have been you as well. I don't know.
Probably.
It was about the game. That's great. I'm glad for Birmingham. Now, what are the other cities that have teams?
I knew you would ask that question. No, I have to look that up too. I don't know.
Well, they're all playing in Birmingham. So it's Birmingham A, Birmingham B, Birmingham
C. They actually are the names of the cities where they will actually reside later on. But I think there's a Miami team.
Tampa. Becky says the Tampa Bandits.
Oh yeah.
So they kept names from the old USFL. It seems
most of them did. I think there's some new teams as well, but most of them kept the names from their old USFL teams. So
Well, maybe Herschel will come out of retirement now, Michael, since he was a USFL. He was the New Jersey. What was the New Jersey team? I can't think of their
New Jersey
name.
General.
Generals, yeah,
Yeah,
New
yeah, the
Jersey
New Jersey
Generals.
Generals.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, maybe we can get Herschel back in football. That would be nice.
we we'll let Michael work on that one
Yeah.
since he's close to it. Uh,
Yes.
Michael, what about you? How you doing today, man?
I am doing well, Tom. I hope you're doing fine. And Barbara, good morning to you. Glad you both are
Okay.
doing well.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
I'm,
And
I'm,
just so you know, New Jersey Generals do have a team. They lost on Sunday to the Houston Gamblers, who was coached by
yeah,
Kevin Sumlin. Was
yeah,
coached
I
the
did.
Houston Gamblers. And
Yeah, they've got a lot of big name coaches. I understand that formerly
yeah,
guys from the NFL and big league college teams. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This should be a great season.
yeah. Gene Chizik is a coach as well of
Is he?
one.
Who is he coaching?
I'm not sure. I want to say the Birmingham Stallions, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I
But
don't know. I don't know if he's the
Jeff
head
Fisher
coach.
is in there. Jeff Fisher
Mhm.
is a coach as well.
Wow.
So I think Michigan has the Panthers team. Jeff Fisher coaches the Michigan Panthers, and
Okay.
his quarterback was Shea Patterson that played at Ole Miss. So they have quite a few players that were well known in the college ranks that are playing in this league now.
Is this where what's his name in Texas? The little guy that did so much for a little time. What's his
Johnny
name?
Manziel?
Yeah, yeah.
No, Johnny
He's
Football
playing
is,
in some league or something.
yeah, that's the fan control league. And he has a team that played in T.O. played in that game at
That's
I think
right.
the age of 49, and he told the quarterback what play to run, and he made a touchdown.
Hey, T.O. says he can still ball. T.O. says if you got a stadium you ain't using, you got coaches that ain't coaching, then you might as well let me play it too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he
He'll just wants to get
enjoyed
back on the
that.
field.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, what else you guys got?
Tom, I just want to say one other thing. I want to send prayers out to one of our regular viewers, Anthony Tedeschi, sent me a note to say he's having surgery on tomorrow and ask for prayers. So ask everyone to please remember Anthony in your prayers during his surgery on tomorrow.
Well, we will. We will definitely do that. Anthony sent me a very nice Easter card. Anthony, thank you so much. We have a good group of people who are with us every week, and
Yes.
we appreciate you guys. We appreciate
Absolutely.
you very much.
And of course, Antley sent a note saying that I think South Carolina had their spring game on Saturday, and he took a picture in the coach's seat. He said he's been hired as one of the assistant coaches, and he's offering you a job. Michael's going to be the defensive coordinator, and he put me over the cheerleader. So, like, I can't coach because I'm a female, Antley. Come on, Antley.
Antley. I'm gonna stay out of that. I'll let you and Antley solve that. Okay, what else, Michael? You got something else?
Yes, I have a couple things that I think may be beneficial and some good news. The Supreme Court on Monday tossed out a dispute over Medicaid work requirements. If you guys may recall, under the Trump administration, he enforced work requirements for people that are getting Medicaid, and the Supreme Court tossed that out, sent it back to the lower court with instructions to wipe it off the books and dismiss them. The District Court of Appeals of Columbia said that the work requirements does not do anything to achieve the primary objective with Medicaid, which is to provide access to health care for low-income people. So that is good to know. That's good for the people that are receiving Medicaid. And one other note, something that may be coming across is that the state of Washington was the first in the nation to pass a law to provide long-term care for its citizens. However, it will not start to take effect until right around July of 26, but they will start taking payroll deductions in 2023 through workers to help fund a state-owned long-term care plan to assist their citizens. And the reason being is they say that about 70% of people who turn 65 will need some type of long-term care services. Many may have to go into nursing facilities, and as you know, Medicare and Medicaid are not really equipped to do that. So you may see more and more states. I know that California is looking at that, and a couple other states out there are watching closely to see how it's funded and the impact. But that's going to be coming.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anything else from either one of you guys? Barbara, you got anything else? Michael?
The other thing that I was going to mention, Thom, and our G-list guest, Jason, mentioned this also before the show started. But he mentioned he was on a flight yesterday, and they made the announcement that the mask mandate on public transportation has been is no longer being enforced. So he said there was a big round of applause. People were pretty excited about it, but I'm one of those that will probably wear my mask forever. With my allergies, if nothing more, it has really been beneficial to me. When I'm walking outside and everything else, people look at me and say, do you have COVID or something? I'll say, no, I have allergies. So I'll still be wearing my mask. And I hope that doesn't offend anyone, because I will probably do it for probably forever.
Well, I don't know why anybody would be offended. Yeah, some people probably will be, but it's a personal choice. That's what the people said who didn't want to wear the mask.
Mm-hmm.
So why would it bother them if you wear the mask?
Right.
It's a personal
You'd be surprised
choice.
though. There's not mask mandates anymore, and a lot of the stores. And I'll go in a grocery store, and of course I have my mask on. And I've had people walk up to me and say, "Why are you still doing that? It's not required." Angry. I mean, like in an angry way. Well, this is my personal choice. So.
Right.
Don't know why it would even bother.
I'll tell you this. I had to take a COVID test yesterday because I have to shoot a job over in Atlanta, an acting job. And you can't work. I don't care what they say. You can't work if you test positive.
Right.
Because it endangers everybody else.
Absolutely.
And so I'll be wearing mine today, as a matter of fact. And I'll get I shoot tomorrow, and I'll get another test tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, if somebody's got a problem with it, maybe we can have that discussion. Probably be a short one. And,
Absolutely.
Won't be pleasant.
You're not going to Will Smith them, are you?
He might.
I don't know. Depends on how serious they want to be. I guess I just don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Right.
I can understand your personal choice. I saw Kyrie Irving on a game the other day talking about his personal choice. And if he was my teammate, we'd probably have an issue. But I don't know. It's your choice. That's fine. But
I would hope that everybody would respect everyone's personal choice as to where they want to move forward with this. I have to say that in part of my other job in dealing with healthcare, and we go up to DC to talk to senators and congressmen regarding healthcare, I was told that somebody out of the Georgia delegation, when they went to I don't recall which, I think it was one of the senator's offices, that the legislative aide had a mask on. And this particular guy, it was his first time coming with us. He was insisting that the person took their mask off to speak with them. And he kept pushing that issue. I was not involved in that meeting, but I found out about it later. And it was a young person. A lot of the legislative aides are like in their 20s and what have you.
Yeah.
And she was just only following the office protocol that was set up. So this particular gentleman decided he wanted to push the envelope and insist that she remove her mask in order to have the meeting. Needless to say, he will not be joining us again any other in meetings. But we were very disappointed that he conducted himself that way. And that's not what we want when we're going up there to talk about the health care and making sure that everybody is safe and have access to it. So that's just one example. So I hope that more people will be more conscious of people's freedom of choice.
Absolutely.
The guy, we about every year and a half or so, a couple of years, we have a guy come by the house and he does the windows. Where we live, we get a lot of wind and stuff, and so the windows get dirty. And he does the windows, and he showed up with his mask on, and he says, he said, I go in people's houses all day, and I'm around people I don't know all day, and they don't know me. He said, I just feel it's the best thing to do. And so he wears his mask.
Yes.
He said, I don't want to get them sick. I may go in somebody's house and contact this thing and don't even know it for a long time. And then, I give it to somebody else. And so I don't know. I think people will be wearing masks from now on. And I don't know, not the majority of people, but the people who choose to. And like you say, if you got allergies and so on and so forth, then why not?
Exactly.
I don't know. If we say everybody has a choice, then you can't force people to abide by your choice. That's your choice.
Right.
So anyway, anything else from either one of you guys?
No, that's it for me.
Okay, well let's move on. I think Sean's got a minute for us, so let's go to Sean and do Got a Minute.
My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope everyone is well and in good spirits this week. So guess what? Does anybody know what this Friday is? No? No worries. I'll give you the scoop. This Friday is Earth Day. What is Earth Day, you may ask? Well, Earth Day was identified as a day of education about environmental issues. It was first celebrated on April 19, 1970 in the US and founded by an American politician and conservationist named Gaylord Anton Nelson. Gaylord helped spark the environmental movement, which quickly grew into an international event. Want to know how you can help celebrate Earth Day? You can start by being car-free. That means walking or biking or skating to work or school, which is not only good for your body, but it's also great for the environment too. Like being outdoors, you can create a birdhouse or a bird feeder out of recyclable containers like milk cartons or large water jugs or soda bottles, or if you have them, pine cones. You can also grow something, plant a seed, a sprout, a flower, a tree in a pot, make a garden. All of those things work just fine. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean, for that. I'll do the Sean this morning, and you know what this Friday is? Oh, you don't know, huh? Good job, Sean. We appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see. So let's get to our G-list guest for today. Remember, Hollywood has the A-list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G-list. Our G-list guest today is Jason Peavy, Vice President for Outreach with the Arnold and Winnie Palmer Foundation in Orlando, Florida. And as I said before, he's a hell of a golfer and a damn good guy. Jason began his job with the Arnold and Winnie Palmer Foundation in January of 2022 after 7 years at Auburn University. Well, I was fortunate enough to work with him on the successful $1.2 billion campaign. Before Auburn, Jason was at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., completing a $1.88 billion campaign that included raising funds for the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Jason has also had stops at Emory University in Atlanta, for a campaign that raised $1.6 billion at the University of Georgia. The man has been raising some money. So let's welcome Jason. Good morning.
Good morning, Thom.
Man, you've been raising some money.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm proud to know that I made the G list. You know, I've been on a lot of lists in my life, but I'm on the G list now. I'm fired up about
You're
that.
moving up in the world.
I'm moving up. I'm moving up.
Okay, well, let's go back to the beginning. You went to Harvard. You were a liberal arts major.
Yeah.
How'd you get into fundraising?
Well, like most people my age, completely accidentally. You know, when I was at Auburn and studying liberal arts, my focus was on journalism, and I wanted to go, you know, work for the New York Times. I had all these big dreams, and I worked in college for David Housel in the athletics department, and you know, David taught me so much, and still to this day is teaching me how to be a better person and all the things that he does. He takes so much time with people like me, and that's a story for another day. And I hope you have David on sometime because he's a great interview. But
be on back a few months ago, and I think we ran into some kind of snag, but we'll get it back hopefully.
Yeah, get him on here. He's always fun to talk to. But you know, I worked for David, and I considered maybe doing something in athletics because I like sports so much. But I really wanted to get out and do something on my own. I was a little hard-headed, you know, maybe still am, but at that time I wanted to see what I could do on my own. So I turned down David's help to kind of get a job set up for me, and struck out on my own, and worked in the newspaper business for a little while, and decided, you know, I missed the higher ed environment. And I looked around the newsroom and saw a lot of guys working through the night. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be that guy when I'm the age that I am now. And so that might have been
if you were going to say it, but go ahead.
So you know, it was kind of an epiphany for me, and who knows why I had that moment of clarity. But I decided, let me go back to work at a university. I kind of enjoyed that vibe and that atmosphere. And I went to actually work at a small private liberal arts college in upstate South Carolina called Erskine College. And, you know, my background was at a big state school. And, you know, I go work at this small private school, and it was a completely different college experience. And I really kind of soaked it in. I lived in the little town of Due West, South Carolina, and I loved it there, Thom. I mean, it was a great experience for me. But you know, when you work at a small place, you have to do, you don't really specialize. You have to do everything. You know, I mean, they'll call you to come clean a building out. You know, we had to help recruit students. We had to help with athletics. We had to help fundraise. We did it all. But I found that I really enjoyed the fundraising part of it. That was it was rewarding to me because you could connect people with their passions, and you could also see the results of the work that you were doing almost instantly, whether it was, you know, a new building going up or scholarships being awarded to students. But I just found that part of it to be extremely rewarding. And, you know, I thought to myself, hey, maybe this is something I might want to do long term. And, you know, I've had some great gigs and really enjoyed all of them. Most people who know me professionally would probably tell you I'm more of a communications person, because that's been a big area of focus for me throughout my career. But I've always worked in development pretty much since I went back into higher education. And I have thought about at times in my career maybe moving into the communication side, but I could just never let go of the development part of it. So I love it.
I'm not in the development part of it like you are, but I can certainly understand. I think communications covers such a broad swath of things. You know, you can do so many things with it. And I, you know, similar, I was in communication and journalism, and, you know, trying to figure out which way I wanted to go, and still trying to figure it out, but I'm having a lot of fun figuring it out. So
Well, there's so many similarities in it, because what you're doing basically is you're building relationships, you're getting to know people, you're finding out what motivates them. So it's very much like sitting down and interviewing someone, like I did so many times in my newspaper time and others. Is you sit down and you try to get to know someone so that you can write about them in a fairly intelligent way. So anyway, I found a lot of similarities in the two. But the rewarding part of fundraising was seeing the good that it did for people. And, I'll say this too, Thom, I mentioned David Housel earlier. I probably don't get to go to Auburn without David giving me a scholarship to come work in the athletic department.
Wow.
So I grew up in a small town in Alabama. We didn't have a whole lot of options in front of us. And, there were people there that looked after me and really kind of helped guide me in the right direction. And I look back on that now, and I could have gone a whole lot of different ways. I mentioned I played golf with Warwick Dunn yesterday, and we were talking about this same thing, like, all the people in our lives that sort of came in at the right time and kept us on the right path. That meant a lot to me. So being in a career field where you see people who've had some success trying to help other people is just extremely rewarding.
Yeah, it is, and it's different. I was in football and you were in the communications, but it's the same thing. In that Coach Jordan, he was very much a disciplinarian. I was thinking the other day. He said if you had facial hair, that was a lack of discipline. And so it's like, okay, but who knows, man? I was there for 10 months and he got a full scholarship and ended up playing for him for 4 years. And it certainly was a guiding force in my life. So,
well, it sounds to me like, Thom, that Coach Jordan and Mr. Palmer would have gotten along pretty well, because there's some rules around Bay Hill where he lived part of the year, but when you still walk in the buildings now, you're required to take your hat off. And he would, when the golfers came in to play in the Arnold Palmer Invitational every year, he would set up a barber's chair and he would make them shave and make sure they were all. There's something to that.
It is.
And you remember I had a beard about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I quickly got rid of all that.
That's interesting. That is interesting. Let's let me see. I had a couple coaches, but let's get Barbara and Michael on. Barbara.
Good morning, Jason. How are you?
Good morning, Barbara. I'm good.
So good to see you again. Yeah. Yes. I wanted to ask you about, your journalism, the decision to get your degree in journalism. I see that you were a staff writer, even in high school, for 3 years for the local newspaper. How did you get interested in that field?
So I did a lot of, I had a lawn mowing business. I had a pea shelling business. I was trying to make a dollar or any money I could when I was growing up, because that was the only way I could do the things I wanted to do. And when I was about 14 years old, I got a job at our local newspaper stuffing the inserts, the advertisements that go in there. And I probably shouldn't say this on this show, but I wasn't old enough to work there. And they paid me minimum wage, but because I wasn't old enough to work there, they couldn't take taxes out. So I was making more money doing that than I could do just about anything else. So I stuck it out, and I'd show up there. The paper came out 2 days a week, and I would stuff every single piece of paper that went out in the mail. And as I was there, I tried to soak in what everybody else was doing, and I got around the pressman in the back and figured out a little bit of that. And I'd stick my nose in the advertising part of the shop and learned a little bit about that. And then one day there was a car accident, and there was something going on at the courthouse, and they were short, and they just looked at me and said, "Go cover whatever it was." And next thing I knew, I was sitting behind a desk and I was writing obituaries and weddings. And I'm gonna tell you, that was the most high pressure job I've ever had in my life. You try to write an obituary for someone, because if you make a mistake, let me tell you, you're gonna hear about that.
Oh, yes.
And if you make a mistake on a typo on somebody's name or whatever about a wedding, and I don't know if you remember back in the day, they used to have these long flowing wedding deals, and I would sit there and type all that up. And the next thing I knew, I was, no one wanted to keep the police scanner with them at night because they all had families to go home to. And I was, so I was out chasing the ambulances and doing all that. And it just one thing led to another, and I enjoyed it. I learned so much. I was a kid, and all that was new to me. So that's kind of how I got into the journalism side.
Great story.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I had the police scanner at one point when I worked at Channel 42, and man, you'd hear something going on, and wherever you were going, you just turn around and go where the scanner, where it was happening, And
well, anybody that rides in a car with me always makes fun of me for how slow I go and how careful I am. But if you keep one of those scanners with you for a couple months, I'm telling you, that takes the lead foot. You can forget that. Once you see some of the stuff that happens in a car, you slow down. I tell you.
And I'll share one more similarity is I was the ice cream man for a while when I was in
ice cream man?
When I was in college. Oh, I had a truck, man. I went all over Birmingham in that ice cream truck. I learned how to do it. You got to ring that bell slow and drive real slow when you're going down the street, so the kids will have time to run in the house and convince their moms to get them some ice cream.
That's marketing, Thom.
Yes, it is.
Said, I ain't buying no ice cream today. And I just sit there in front of the house and just ring that bell. Just go in there and get my wallet, But I don't think they took taxes out, And now that you mention it, so
right.
I'm sure I paid them, but right.
Yeah, of course you did.
I'm going to get audited after this. I'm pretty sure.
Michael, what you got?
Well, good morning, Jason. Thanks for being
here. Good morning,
with
Michael. Us. Absolutely. My pleasure.
I'm sitting here looking at your bio, and I see you were involved in the $1.2 billion campaign because we're Auburn, because this is Auburn. And then you have the Smithsonian Institute, $1.8 billion that included funds for the National Museum of African American History, and then $1.6 billion at Emory and some money for the University of Georgia. Do you consider yourself to be a professional fundraiser? Is that what you are?
Yeah. There are probably some people out there that would argue with that, because this current role is probably my first frontline fundraising position. But I've been around it, and that's what I would call myself. But Thom and I have talked about this a lot. I don't like to get into a little box and say I'm this, because I got that liberal arts deep inside me, and I want to be able to kind of. But like when you can be more of a generalist instead of a specialist, and you can bring in perspective from the marketing side, from a communications perspective, and also from the fundraising thing, I think that's where I've kind of carved out my little piece of it. So, but yeah, if you want to call me a professional fundraiser, yes, sir, I'll take that. I'll take that description.
Well, it seems that you've been quite successful. Which campaign would you say brought you the most satisfaction from doing?
Gosh, that's really a great question, because it's all so satisfying. So if I could tell you a couple little stories about all of them, just to give you, a feel for how different they all were, because you think, a fundraising campaign is a fundraising campaign. Well, no, it's not. When I was at Erskine College and we were doing, smaller, we did a $30 million campaign. Okay. Well, Erskine has about 12,000 living alumni, and it's a small school and didn't have a lot of resources. So we had to be incredibly creative. We had to account for every single cent. We just did not have the resources that a major university like, say, an Emory or an Auburn would have to put forward towards something. So we had to take a lot of chances and a lot of risk, and they had to pay off. So you were very careful about how you went about your work. I went to the University of Georgia, and I thought, okay, wow, now I've got all of this this big university behind me. I'm going to be able to. All my dreams have come true, right? Well, Mike Adams was the president at Georgia when I was there, and I don't know if you remember this, but he got into a big public tussle with a guy named Vince Dooley right before our campaign went public, and the foundation board and the board of regents were kind of butting heads there in Georgia. And Mike Adams, about a month before we went public with our campaign, dissolved the foundation board. Wow. So I was part of the only campaign that I know of that went public, and because we didn't have a foundation and we started a new one and we had to wait, I think it was 90 days before we could actually raise any money. We went public with a campaign and couldn't raise money. We couldn't accept a gift because we didn't have a foundation. Still somehow found a way to get through all that and be successful in that campaign. Then I go to Emory, and then I'm like, and Emory is, top 20 university. They raise a lot of money. They've been doing it for a long time. They have some great donors who've been behind that university for a long time. Emory was a kind of a small regional university, and then they exploded on the national scene when they got that big Woodruff gift back in the, I think it was the late 70s or early 80s. But anyway, I get there, we do all this work. We're about ready to kick off our campaign, and we're about 60% of the way toward our total of $1.6 billion. And then you remember what we kicked off in September of 2008. And you guys remember what happened about a month later when the bubble burst, the economy fell apart, and we were looking at each other like, every day, you remember those days, every day was worse than the day before. And the market just kept going down and down and down. And everybody was holding on to their money, rightfully so. And we were looking at each other like, how can we even talk about fundraising when we're in the environment that we're in right now? But we had a meeting with some of the very generous supporters of that institution, and they told us, don't stop. You will not fail. Keep going. And we got that reassurance and somehow got through that whole recession and ended up hitting our goal on that one. And then I go to the Smithsonian, and it was their first ever, you think the Smithsonian's been around forever, but they really haven't had a big organized campaign like that. But oh my gosh, what just some unbelievable stories I could tell from that. I actually was remember events that we did where we had pieces of the exhibits that are now on display in the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And we were just taking it, didn't have a home. We were just taking it on the road. We were showing donors, and we were trying to make the case for this museum. And it was messy. That whole process was a little bit messy. And there were times where I thought, I wonder if this is actually going to happen or not. And you flash forward when that museum was finished, and, you couldn't get a ticket for a long time. And I had to call in a favor to actually go in there and see it because I was at Auburn at the time. But I took my girls and I took them to every one of those pieces that we traveled around with. And I took their picture in front of them. And I was all weepy, and they were all looking at me like, what's wrong with you? But it meant so much to see that museum. If you haven't been there, is incredible. What they did with that museum, the way it's designed, where you start in the bottom and you kind of work your way up to the light, is just really an emotional experience. So if you haven't seen it, please do. If your listeners haven't been there, put that on your list, because I love all the Smithsonian museums. They've all got their own character and personality, but that one, because I had in my role, was teeny tiny. I had a little bitty, I was just kind of close enough to see it, but really not. And Lonnie Bunch, who is now the secretary of the Smithsonian, was the director of that museum at the time that it was built. And he's really a force. So I'm proud of that. We did we did an event there for our campaign donors inside the Supreme Court, which was a unique, and Thom and I have done a lot of really cool events together, and we've been in some really cool spaces. But that one was one that really stood out. And then, to get to go to Auburn, where a place that really changed my life, set me on the path that I'm on now. I wouldn't be the person that I am without Auburn and the people there. And, I got to so go home, if you will. And that was probably the most personal experience that I've been through. And just the emotion and the passion that the people who support Auburn showed during that campaign. And, Thom's leadership was pivotal. He stepped into a leadership position with the foundation board right at the time we were going public. And Thom, I don't know if we would have been successful without all that you did on that campaign. But when you have someone who can communicate a message the way that a Thom Gossam can, and a Michael O'Neill, who also did a lot of heavy lifting during that. And I know y'all are great friends, Thom, but that was just a tremendous asset that we had during that campaign. Is Thom never said no. And I asked him often, and sometimes he would kind of look at me a little funny, like, but I thought we were a great team, Thom. I enjoyed those days, and I have some great memories from that. So it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick one of those, but that's just some of the things that I'm proud of.
We had a lady on not too long ago, and she was talking about getting to consensus with people and how you don't say yes, but you say yes, and. And I think I might have perfected that yes, and when you would ask me some things, I'd be, yes, and let's do so and so. But I remember when you came, I think it was one of the first meetings, and you were in there at the board, and the sentiment around the table seemed to be, who is this guy? Okay, let's see what he can do. Let's see what he can do. But it worked out well, and I think the thing that worked for me, I mean, we went to what, 10, 12, 15 locations around the country. Yeah. New York, and you're right, we Grand Ole Opry, the Fox in Atlanta. I mean, it was great. But when you have a good producer working with the talent, there has to be mutual trust. And the producer has to trust that the talent's going to put his or her stamp on it, but fall within the guidelines of what you're asking for. And so it was fun. It was great. And the fact that we made the goal and surpassed the goal was even greater. Michael Barber, who's up next?
Jason, I wanted to ask you about your current position. You're Vice President of Outreach there at the Arnold and Winnie Palmer Foundation. How is that different, or is it different from your previous positions? And exactly what are you doing now?
Yeah, well, so the Arnold Winnie Palmer Foundation is based in Orlando, Florida, but the Palmer legacy is really relevant in the everyday story of golf. His name comes up. I mean, this is his 60th anniversary of his win at Augusta and at the Open Championship. So a lot of milestones this year. But the foundation was started by Mr. Palmer and his wife, Winnie. And it really goes to support the funds that are raised for the foundation goes to support children's health, character development through the game of golf, and nature-based wellness. So Sean was talking about Earth Day. Those type things are part of what we do. There's the Arnold Palmer Hospital and Winnie Palmer Hospital for mothers and babies here in Orlando that have the Palmer name on it. We also have a golf tournament every year in March here at Bay Hill. But honestly, this foundation was run by Mr. Palmer when he was alive. And he was, as you know, an icon and a force of nature. But he's been gone for about 5 years. So his daughter, Amy Saunders, and her husband, Roy, are running most of the things now that Mr. Palmer did when he was alive. And they're doing a great job with that. And they really wanted to rethink the foundation and what its future is after Mr. Palmer. So it's an interesting situation where you have this really incredible brand and trusted name with the foundation that's kind of in startup mode. So, you know, I guess if you were going to see a foundation that was trying to get started and build itself up, the first thing you'd want to try to do is establish your name and your brand, but we've already got that. So it's the foundation's in a great position to do a lot of good. And so I started in January and we're getting organized. And in fact, I'm in Orlando today because we just hired someone who's starting, and I wanted to be here for her first week on the job. And we've got a really bright future ahead of us.
That's great. Thank you.
And, you know, there's not only is there Bay Hill Lodge and Club here in Orlando, but there's also Latrobe Country Club in Pennsylvania where Mr. Palmer grew up. His dad was the greenskeeper there. And when he became a golf professional, he bought the club. And it's really that was really his home. It's where his children were raised. And they would kind of go between Orlando and Pennsylvania throughout the year. But in December, the Arnold Winnie Palmer Foundation, the estate moved Latrobe Country Club under the foundation. So we're going to have some exciting news about potentially a campaign around the Palmer legacy and really telling that story in Latrobe. So maybe I'll come back on when we get a little further down the road on those plans and share that with you. But I think it'll be an exciting announcement when it's made, and it will have a big impact on the history of the game of golf.
Wow, that's great.
Good deal.
Jason, are you running a tally of how much money you've been involved in raising? I'd like to know what that total figure is about now.
No, I haven't, you know, because it's like, it's one of those things, Michael, where, you know, there's so many people involved in those type things that, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm taking credit for any of that. Like it's been fun to be a part of it, and to see, the success, but you know, it's a team sport. I've always said that fundraising is a team sport. Thom and I talk about it being a contact sport sometimes because it can get a little, but you know, it's just unbelievable. It really should be measured, Michael, more in the lives that philanthropy changes and how it impacts people. And I'm an example of that. Others in your audience may be examples of it, but that's what should be measured. Dollars are important. Don't get me wrong. They can create a lot of change, but I like to measure the difference and the good that it does.
I think one of the things that came out of the last campaign, the $1.2 billion campaign, was not only was that historic, but we were able to involve different segments of our population that maybe had not been involved before.
Well, that's a great point, Thom. And you know, I'll say that those that are associated with Auburn will know what Tiger Giving Day is. It's something that happens every February, but that was started when Thom was chair of the foundation board. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was kind of a grassroots crowdfunding initiative that did bring in a lot of people who weren't really giving in other ways. You know, there are a lot of people who give back to their school or college, or they give to athletics or whatever they're passionate about. But Tiger Giving Day was a project-based, you know, immediate impact. And, you know, about 2/3 of the donors every year, it's held steady pretty much. And it's been going on for 6 or 7 years now, have been new or lapsed donors. So it's just a great way, as Thom said, to bring people who maybe aren't engaging in the more traditional fundraising ways into this sort of cause-based crowdfunding model.
Okay. Barbara, you and Michael, good? I got one more thing I want to ask Jason. So tell me about your daughters playing golf.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I understand you're doing some caddying.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot more caddying than I am doing playing. And I tell you, I heard your little intro when I came on about my golf, and I try not to damage the course when I'm out there. And when I take my daughter out on the driving range, I always make her stand in front of me so she can't see my swing, because I don't want her to try to emulate me at all. But no, she's done well. We're excited about this is one of those pandemic stories, right? Like when we were home with the kids and everything was shut down, we could walk down the street from our house in Auburn to the driving range. That was all we could do. That was the only way, just to get out of the house for a little while every afternoon. And we would go down and hit a couple of bags of balls, and she just got into it. And then, of course, we had to get her some lessons because I wasn't able to teach her the proper way to swing a golf club. But she loves the game. She's 8 years old. And it's fun to watch. I enjoy being on the bag for her, although I probably get fired 3 or 4 times during the course of a round, and I always get rehired at the end when it comes time to buy dinner. So all is forgiven. But yeah, she's done well. She's played in Montgomery in the U.S. Kids local tour. She's played in Atlanta in the U.S. Kids local tour, and she's played in Jacksonville, Florida. And she's qualified for some pretty big tournaments this summer, and we're going to take her and see how she does against some of that competition. But it's been fun, and it's been some great daddy-daughter time. That's
great.
Our kids play soccer, and everybody's taking the chair, and you sit down and watch, and they tell you not to root or say anything, especially to the referees. So you kind of sit there quietly. But with golf, you can walk along with them, and on the fairways, you kind of going from shot to shot, and there's a lot of life lessons you can learn out on a golf course for sure. So it's been good. Thanks for asking, Thom.
That's great. Barbara, Michael.
I just want to say thank you for joining us today, Jason. It was so good to see you again after all these years.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Barbara. And it's a pleasure to be on the show, and always like keeping up with what you all are doing. And I know you guys have a big job keeping Thom out of trouble, but do the best you can do.
That's about the way to describe it.
Thanks for having me on.
We may have to utilize some of your fundraising skills to keep him out of trouble.
Okay, well, if I can help, I can help. He's helped me out of a couple of bonds, so I owe him that at least.
Thank you for being on with us, Jason, and sharing with us what you do and what have you, and we really appreciate that.
My pleasure. Good to talk with all of you.
It's great, Jason. We appreciate it and wish you the best of luck down there, man. And I will get down there to see him. I guess I'll tell the Peavy story before we leave.
Go ahead. We got to tell the story.
So we were having that. Was it a pro-am or just what? I don't know.
Pro-am. Yeah. Pro-am at the Barbasol tournament.
We were, and I'm not very good. And so they were going to take video of our swings, I think is what they were doing. And so I was up, and the guy said, what's your name? And I said, hold on just a minute. And so I took a whack at it, and that thing went like a curveball, man. It just went and I turned around to that guy and I said, Peavy, that's my name, Peavy. And everybody just died laughing.
Yeah. Especially me. Then
I have to tell Jason coming in, Jason hit one that went over the 18th hole and hit the grandstand up there.
People were hot. Yeah, but the ball rattled around and landed in the middle of the green.
It did. It did. It was great. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, Tom, but when we walked up to the green, I looked at the pro and I told him, I said, I bet you don't see another shot like that the rest of this tournament. And he said, I hope I don't.
Oh, no. Yeah,
You
that would have
know-
been my response, Jason. I hope not.
The first time I had been associated, with a pro, and so it was interesting to know that this man made his living doing this, and he wasn't a Tiger Woods level golfer. He wasn't a Jordan Spieth level golfer. He was a guy making his groceries, making his mortgage as best he could every month. And so that was an interesting thing for me, because when you've been in professional sports, man, it's a tough way to make a living.
Right.
But anyway, Jason, you got anything else for us?
No, I just appreciate the time and being on. It's good to be with all of you. And I'm glad you're doing this. This is a great way to keep us all entertained and informed. So thank you, Tom.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. All righty. Well, thank you, man. We appreciate it. Let's give Jason a hand. Okay, my closing commentary, or as I see it, I hope all of you had a good Easter, a good Passover. And I want to thank Anthony Tedisco for the very nice Easter card he sent me. Anthony is one of our regular viewers. Good morning, Anthony. I see you're going to best of luck with your surgery. And it was a great card that you sent me out of the blue. I got this card from Anthony. I appreciate the sentiment of the card, and I thought I'd bring it this morning and read it because I believe it speaks to all of us. And what it reads is, whatever will bring a smile to you, whatever is most worthwhile to you, that's what you're wished today. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. I appreciate it, and I will pass that sentiment along to all of us. Whatever will bring a smile to you, whatever is most worthwhile to you, that's what we wish for you today. And that's how I see it on this April the 19th in the year 2022, and that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. I want to thank Michael and Barbara. Thank our G-List guest, Jason Peavy. You made it, man. You made it on the G-List. And best of luck to you and your family in Orlando. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator, Sean Jones, the organizer and producer. Remember, thank Joycey Gilly Gossam, the producer. I can't forget that. And then remember, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.